Good afternoon, Tides fans, and welcome to another edition here in Season 4, Episode 20 of Sports Talk with Rags. And today, here we are honored here to have the Norfolk Tides radio announcer, Pete Michaud, with us today. Pete, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, and appreciate your time. And let's start off from the beginning. I think downtown Norfolk is still buzzing from the success of last year's team.
Yeah, I know manager Buck Britton and his guys have a real interesting dilemma facing them, come Friday night here as the year gets underway. And that's, what do they do for an encore
Right.
coming off the best year in franchise history, club record 90 wins, best record in the league, best team in the league without a doubt, to win their first league championship since 1985. And then go on to win the AAA National Championship, a year that, while we all thought it would be a very good year, probably exceeded everybody's wildest expectations.
Yes, and the thing is I know that I've lived here since '87, and definitely remembered, my dad taking my brother and I there to Met Park, and then when Harbor Park opened up in the early '90s. But that first championship there since the mid '80s, I mean, we're talking not only Met Park, but also when the prospects of those 86, 87, 88 Mets were coming up, and definitely look at the success that the Orioles have been having here with the success that the Tides have been having.
Yeah, certainly you referenced some of those great years back in the 80s when the Tides, were loaded with all of that New York Met talent. And in contrast, until last year, the, good seasons had been few and far between. Since the Tides became an Oriole affiliate, the Tides had only won one division title previously. That was back in 2015. Before last year, the Tides, I was looking at this note last night, had not won a playoff series since 1995. So it had been like 27 years since they'd even won a series in the postseason, much less an actual championship. But then, of course, they, erase all that from the record books last year. But this is a club, at least to begin the year, looks really loaded once again. Even though some good players have gone on to Baltimore, the Orioles still have the number one rated farm system in all of baseball. Last 7 consecutive surveys by MLB Pipeline. They do both a preseason and a midseason ranking. The last 7 consecutive rankings, the Orioles farm system has rated number one in baseball, and we certainly see it from the likes of the players we'll see opening up the year in Norfolk this year.
Yes, and just to talk about the last couple years, Adley Rushman has been in the Tides uniform. Gunnar Henderson, and let's not forget here Matt Holliday's son here with the success that Jackson had last year to start off in single A and get with the Tides here for their postseason and their championship run. But even for him to start off the season here in Norfolk, the number one rated prospect is wearing a Tides uniform once again.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that Jackson might make the big league club, and I know a lot of Oriole fans are a little bit disappointed that he's not there to begin the year. What I tell everybody is get out to Harbor Park and watch Jackson Holliday pretty early this year, because it wouldn't surprise me if he is gone in a hurry, either if somebody in Baltimore gets hurt, gets off to a bad start, or if he gets off to a red hot start. Now, Jackson had a pretty good training camp, spring training with the Orioles this year, but it wasn't great. And you look at the fact that, he is still only 20 years old.
Right.
He didn't play with Norfolk that long last year. He put up solid numbers, but not incredible numbers, not matching the kind of numbers that he had at single A or double A. So I think it makes a lot of sense that he comes down to Norfolk and gets a little more seasoning, a little more fine-tuning. Mike Elias, the general manager of the Orioles, has even stated that he wants Holliday to see more upper level left-handed pitching, especially since it looks like the O's are going to see a lot of left-handed pitching at the big league level in the early part of the year. So let Jackson come down here, let him play every day, let him probably lead off like he did with Norfolk at the end of last season. And again, it wouldn't surprise me if he follows the same trek of Rutschman and Henderson. You remember back in 2021, Adley Rutschman began the year with Norfolk before he went up. That was because of an injury. Gunnar Henderson began the next year, even though he was the number one prospect with Norfolk. He was gone pretty quickly. Wouldn't surprise me if Jackson Holliday follows that same path this season, beginning the year here with the Tides.
Yeah, and the other thing is even though we've highlighted the number one prospect here the last couple years, I mean, we're talking about a handful of top 30 Oriole prospects here in Norfolk, and then a handful of guys here that are on the Orioles 40-man rosters. So it looks like here 2024 on paper, and I know it's the start of Easter weekend, but Friday night should be an exciting packed house.
Certainly, while everyone will be looking at Jackson Holliday,
Yeah.
there are a lot of other players that certainly will be deserving of attention. You talked about some of the top prospects. The Orioles have sent Norfolk 4 of the top 32 prospects in baseball, according to MLB Pipeline, to begin the year with the Tides. In addition to Holliday, who's the number one prospect overall, you've got, as I look at my notes here, you've got Kobe Mayo, who absolutely lit it up
Right.
during spring training this year. On a lot of other major league teams, he would have made the club, but just because the Orioles are so loaded, Kobe did not make Baltimore. But I want to say he hit like 340, 350, something like that, with a lot of power. Had great numbers with Norfolk after he came up last year. Heston Kjerstad is an outstanding young outfielder. He's going to get his day in the sun in Baltimore at some point, but he'll begin the year with the Tide. So those are 3 top 32 prospects right there that will begin the year in Hampton Roads. And we haven't even talked about the pitching. That's just how deep this club is offensively. And oh, by the way, let's not forget about the guy who was the linchpin to the Tide's success last year, Connor Norby.
Yeah.
He is the number 7 prospect in the Orioles organization, maybe a little bit under the radar in comparison to Holliday and Mayo and a few of these other guys. But Connor Norby, just lit it up last year, led the league in hits, led the league in doubles. If I recall, I believe he led the league in RBIs. He was top 5 at a number of other offensive categories. He was the team's MVP, in my opinion, should have been an all-star, and he'll be back in a Tides uniform come Friday night as well.
Right. And to start off with who's on the mound, I mean, I know on a previous episode when you came on last time, both of us talked about how we graduated from high school in Chesapeake. Well, one pitcher is just from across the water here from Grassfield here with Garrett Stallings, being a Tide.
Yeah, it was funny. You talk about the pitching, and a lot of people are not talking about the pitching. For as great as the Tides offense was last year, the pitching was even better.
Right.
The Tides pitching staff led the league in ERA, led the league in strikeouts by 114 more than the next closest team. They led the league in fewest home runs allowed. It was a dominant pitching staff, and I think it's going to be even better this year. You look especially at the starting rotation. You've got Garrett Stallings, who you mentioned, the kid out of Grassfield High School. You've got Chase McDermott. You've got Cade Povich. You've got Bruce Zimmerman, who's been a big leaguer throughout much of his career. He may well be on the mound on opening night. I'm not sure. Then you look at some veterans out of the bullpen. Brian Baker is going to begin the year with the Tides. He's been a big leaguer the last several seasons. Nick Vespe's been up and down between Norfolk and Baltimore. And then, oh, by the way, John Means He's
Yeah.
going to begin the year with the Tides on a major league rehab. We understand that John's going to get quote unquote several rehab starts with Norfolk before he's ready to go back up. Also, wouldn't surprise me if we see Kyle Bradish at
Mm,
some point. He begins the year on the Orioles injured list, and I would imagine he'll need a couple of tune-ups before
right.
he's ready to join the big league club. So, wouldn't surprise me if we see Kyle at a Tides uniform early in the season also.
Yeah, and the thing is here with the success of the Tides, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, there in 2020 when the minor leagues were shut down during the pandemic, I didn't know how the attendance would be there when minor league baseball came back there and who would come to Harbor Park, but just the success of the Tides. I mean, you either ride the tide or ride the ferry or get there early because wasn't attendance a record number there last year?
I'm not sure if it was a record number. I know it was the highest they've had in a long, long time. I think it was around 5,700 and change per game.
Yeah.
And obviously, winning has something to do with that. So one would imagine, we're going to see a lot of fans at Harbor Park once again this year. And Mark, you used the phrase, ride the tide.
Yeah.
Last year, and I just saw this note earlier today.
Right.
Last year, the Tides worked out a promotion with the light rail system that Tides fans could ride the light rail to and from the ballpark for free
Yeah.
for home fireworks games. Well,
Mm,
we've gone way beyond that this year.
right.
The Tide is now free for every home game this season. If
Wow.
you've got a ticket or you just tell them you're buying your ticket at the game, you can ride the Tide to the ballpark up to 2 hours before the game and up to 2 hours after the game ends.
Oh wow.
That'll save you parking fees, save you the hassle of trying to get in and out of Harbor Park. And that outstanding offer is now good for every home game this season.
Yes, and it's I mean, I know that Ken Young has done a great job with owning the Tides, but just during the off season, the Tides are now under new ownership, even though the front office staff and the field staff is pretty much the same as last year.
Yeah, and I'm not in the office on an everyday basis. I'm more
Right.
of a seasonal employee, but just in talking to some of our full-time employees, including General Manager Joe Gregory, about what the change has meant, and really it's kind of status quo. A few little things are being done differently from a business aspect, but probably nothing that the fans are going to notice. Almost every member of the front office staff has stuck around. Ken Young, although he has sold the team, is still going to remain involved for a couple of years, we understand, with the new ownership group. So I don't really think it's going to be anything that fans are going to notice. Certainly isn't going to be anything negative as at all having the new ownership group.
Yes, and the thing is so with the season starting on Friday and the new schedule where just about every Monday was an off day here. What they started that I think after the pandemic. So
Correct.
what it's a weekend home series off on Monday and then start on the road there Tuesday through the following Sunday.
Right. That's pretty much the schedule, even though there are a couple of exceptions, this opening weekend being one where it's only a 3 game set with Durham.
Right.
But most of the year, without fail, it'll be 6 game series. Monday being an off day, a series begins on Tuesday and runs through Sunday. And for the most part, it's a week at home, a week on the road, a week at home, a week on the road. I think there's one exception where the Tides have a 2 week road trip in May through Nashville and Memphis. And I think they have a 2 week homestand later in the year. But for the most part, it's 1 week home, 1 week on the road. And as you said, almost always Mondays are off day. I think the Tides play, I believe it's maybe one Monday this year, right around the 4th of July holiday.
Oh,
right around that week. But for the most part, every Monday is usually an off day, although it's always a travel day. So it's not really an off day for the Tides. It's no game day, but it
right.
still tends to be a very busy day because the Tides are almost always busing or flying somewhere on a Monday.
Right. And with your job, what? It's a 30-minute pregame there on 94.1, and then it leads right into first pitch there with your broadcast.
We have a 15-minute
Oh,
pregame for most of our broadcasts. Now, some of our midweek games, once the Tides moved from 7:05 games to 6:35 games, which they began a year or two ago, uh, because 94.1 has its afternoon show on. For some of those midweek games beginning at 6:35, we just have a 5-minute pregame show, but our
oh,
standard is 15 minutes.
okay. All right. And let's see. So with today being Wednesday, I mean, have is the has the team been able to practice yet at Harbor Park, or have you seen them, there at Harbor Park earlier today or yesterday here to get things going for Friday night?
Yeah, I've not seen the guys as of yet, but they are all in town. In
Okay.
fact, kind of a luxury. Most of the team came in on Monday
Okay.
this week, which is a real change. In years gone by, the team would normally get in either 1 or 2 days before the year began, and that was it. And
Okay.
guys were scrambling to find apartments and to get settled in and get unpacked. This year, they had the luxury of coming in on Monday, and this is the second straight year in which the new system has gone in operation, in which major league teams are providing housing
Oh,
for the minor league players. And that is a huge deal. I can't understate how important that is to the players. To not have to go through the hassle of trying to find a place to run or to rent, I should say, month to month, or maybe on a 6-month lease, and then you're dealing with issues of, if you get promoted or if you get set down, you get released. That's always a problem. Trying to get furniture, get electricity hooked up, get your internet hooked up. Now the guys just show up. The Orioles have, I think, at least 2, maybe 3 locations where they have places for the players to stay. Guys that are single will normally room 2 to an apartment. If
right.
players, are married or have families, they'll get one to themselves with their wife and their children. And that's a big headache off the players' shoulders to begin the year. So all they do is come in. They came in, as I said, on Monday. I
Yeah.
know guys were on the field taking batting practice and doing a little work yesterday. I believe doing the same today. Tomorrow doesn't look good for the weather, but I think everyone will be very much rested and ready to go come Friday, not having to deal with all those travel and housing headaches that they've had in years gone by.
Yes, and with Friday night being the start of 2024 here for the Tides, what year number is it that you've been affiliated with radio coverage?
Let's say I started in 2007, the first year that the Tides became an Oriole affiliate.
Okay.
So this would be if you throw out 2020 when we didn't have a year because of the pandemic, so this would be my 16th
Right. Yeah.
year. I think it would be, yes, this would be year 16 for me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And, and then also another thing that I mean, I pretty much remember it just being last year, but I think they've carried it over to this year. For many years, they would end around Labor Day, and you only played in the month of September if you made the playoffs. But what last year, the regular season went to like the middle of September, a little bit longer.
Actually, later than that, the last 2 years, they have stretched the season out almost to the end of September.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this was basically done. What they did previously was end on Labor Day, as you noted. It was always Labor Day was the last day, and then you would see a couple of rounds of playoffs.
Right.
What the big league teams basically said was, we want our young prospects playing in
Right.
case they have to be called up for teams that are in playoff consideration in the major leagues.
Right.
You might not want, for example, last year, let's say the Tides had not made the playoffs and the season had ended on Labor Day while the Orioles were winning the American League East.
Right.
If they might need Heston Kjerstad or Jackson Holliday or Kobe Mayo or Connor Norby, those guys might have not played any baseball for 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Right.
So the major leagues want their minor league players playing almost to the end of the major league season.
Mm.
So I believe 2 years ago, I think the season ended, I think it was September 29th. And I think last year it ended on the 26th or 27th. So, yeah, we're starting just a day after the major leagues begin, and the International League season ends only a few days before the major league season ends.
Yeah, yes, and how was that? Traveling out there to Las Vegas and having that one game and the Tides being champs there last year.
But it certainly was the culmination of, as we mentioned right from the outset of the interview, the most amazing season we've seen in Tides history, going out to Las Vegas, winning that 7-6 thriller over Oklahoma City, the Dodgers affiliate in the AAA National Championship game, just really was the icing on the cake. Although I will tell you, Mark, as exciting as it was, I think for the players and for the staff and for the fans to win that AAA title game, it didn't compare at all to winning the league championship against Durham.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because you go out to Vegas
Right,
and you're playing a team that you don't know, you haven't seen, you don't know Oklahoma City, you don't really know their players. There's no rivalry there.
right,
But to win the International League, especially against, the
right,
King Kong of the league, Durham, the
right.
team that seems to win it or at least contends for it every year, that was really thrilling. And I can tell you the celebration in the locker room after the win in Vegas, it was nice, but it paled in comparison to what it was like after the win over Durham. That one really, really meant something.
Yes, and the thing is I mean, ever since Durham has been a AAA team, I mean, and only being what 3.5 hours away, definitely a rival there with the Tides, and just and that's who they open up here just in 2 days, which they probably, with it being the first home game, probably you know um, show show the banner there on the first home game.
Yeah, I don't know what they have planned
Right.
for the opening weekend. If they're going to do anything to commemorate the championship, I'd imagine they would have something, whether it's a video presentation or maybe a banner. I don't know.
Right.
I believe they're going to be doing rings later in the year
Mhm.
for the players that were on that championship team. I don't think we'll see that the opening weekend.
Right.
But it really will be kind of nice to have Durham in for that first weekend series, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, just to kind of get it going again. Because as good as the Tides were last year, Durham was the second best team in the
Right.
league. They were only 2.5 games behind the Tides. They had a phenomenal ball club, actually a little better offensively than Norfolk even, and their pitching staff was almost as good. So, Durham, they get that talent brought in from Tampa Bay.
Right.
And as good as the Orioles minor league system is, probably nobody in baseball over the last 10 to 15 years has been as good in developing talent as Tampa Bay. I mean,
Right.
they're always up there. And I think this year they begin ranked with the sixth best farm system in baseball. So while they're not number one, they're right up there near the top once again. They've got a young player by the name of Junior Camasiro.
Mm.
He is the number 3 rated prospect. So while you
Mm.
keep your eye on Jackson Holliday, look out for this kid from Durham. He is going to be an awfully good one. He's already a very good one, and I'm sure he'll be in Tampa Bay pretty soon, and he'll be somebody to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, and the other thing is even with the success with the Orioles last year and coming around the trade deadline and just with the Oriole, or just with major league teams having success and want that veteran, for the postseason run. It wasn't like, the Orioles were able to keep the prospects, keep the Tides intact last year so they could have success as well.
Well, Mike Elias, the general manager in Baltimore, has made it very clear that it will take a lot for him to get rid of any of these prize young prospects. And certainly his phone, I'm sure, for the last 2 or 3 years has been ringing off the hook with people trying to get the likes of Jackson Holliday and Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman before him.
Yeah.
And, Mike has stuck to his guns. It has taken a lot for him to get rid of anybody. And he did actually make a big deal during the offseason,
Right.
dealing away Joey Ortiz along with DL Hall. Hall, a really good left handed pitcher who found a niche in the Oriole bullpen last year. Ortiz, a really promising young shortstop. But there was really nowhere, for Joey to go. You've got Gunnar Henderson playing a lot of short. Holiday is probably going to play a lot of short when he gets there. So they're able to package Hall and Ortiz and get a new ace to their staff in Corbin Burns, who, could very well, be a certain Cy Young contender this year. And so that's a pretty good deal. And Joey, while he was a ranked prospect, he wasn't like a top 30 guy. I think he might have been, ranked in the 50 or 60 range among prospects. So a pretty good deal. You bring in Corbin Burns to lead things off with Grayson Rodriguez following him. And, that makes the Orioles look, all the more formidable for a team that won 100 games plus last year and won the division. In fact, I'm stunned that so few people are picking Baltimore to repeat, I should say, as division champs this year, because, the young players are a year more experienced. You've got more coming. Then you add Corbin Burns. I mean, I don't see how you can't pick the Orioles to repeat this season.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And it's, just going on down the line, starting with the Orioles, then the Tides, and then just the Orioles farm system. Definitely hear the last couple years success, and definitely awesome year in 2023 for the Tides, and fans get ready here as not only does the season start on Friday, but the homestand there starts on Friday as the Tides host Durham.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We might also note that this year, all of our Friday games have gone to 6:35. Last year, those are the only ones that they kept at 7:05. But now all the weekday games that are night games anyway
Yeah.
will begin at 6:35. 6:35 on Saturday. We've got our first fireworks show of the year coming up on Saturday. Then a day game for Easter on Sunday, beginning just after 1 in the afternoon. It's going to be a great year. Season tickets are on sale. The ballpark is beautiful. They continue to do a little bit of renovation and revamping throughout the off season. So there's always a couple of little new things to take a look at the ballpark. Of course, we've got the great video board and scoreboard that they put up over the last 2 years. Those are certainly smashes with the fans, providing a lot of information. The field, I hope, will be looking great for opening night. We've got a brand new head groundskeeper this year. Kenny Magner retired after nearly 50 years with the ball club. We've got a big night to honor him coming up a little later in the season. So a lot to look forward to, and 150 games. It all begins on Friday.
Yeah, and I've never actually met Kenny, but just hearing the stories, he was at the right place at the right time when Dave Rosenfield needed somebody to work on the field at Met Park, and it ended up being a 50-year job.
Yeah, Kenny was just a teenager when he started helping out, and I think whatever it was, a year, 2, 3 down the road, the head guy left, and Dave kind of, gave him the keys to the castle, so to speak, and said, "The job is yours if you want it." And Like you said, Kenny ended up sticking around for almost 50 years.
Yes. Well, hey, Pete, appreciate your time here to come back on and, just get the excitement here and a little preview here of what the 23 season was. And then as the 24 season opens up on Friday. So thanks again for your time.
Well, my pleasure.
All right. And let's see. So with your coverage, it's 94.1, and then with technology, 94.1 with the app. And then is there a link if anybody has a MILB app?
Yes. Of course, all of our games are available for streaming on MILB TV as well as the Bally Live app. I believe if you get the Bally Live app, you could actually watch games for free.
Okay.
I'd have to confirm that, but that's my understanding this year. I know MILB TV has been a subscription service, although there's a lot of free games you can watch. In fact, the Tides, because of all the prospects, were one of the free teams that were featured many, many times last year. So you can check that out. You go to MILB.com, the official website of Minor League Baseball. You can download the Bally Live app on your phone to watch games throughout all of Minor League Baseball. Of course, you can find us at 94.1, as you said, on the FM dial. You can also go to ESPNradio941.com and listen absolutely free of charge to every broadcast. We might note that for the games that are streaming on the internet, if you're watching a road game with the Tides, you're going to get the home team's broadcasters. So if the Tides, for example, next week will be in Charlotte, if you watch the game on MILB TV or the Bally Live app, you'd be getting the Charlotte audio. So you could go to ESPNradio941.com and you can get the audio for every Tides home game and road game that we're providing. So that's a way to listen to us every game and watch us every game as well.
Yes. Well, hey, Pete, I mean, I know that baseball is, just definitely grew up, watching and following the game. But, it's with the season starting on Friday and 150 plus games. I mean, it's definitely getting ready to be a busy 2024 for you.
Yeah, things are going to get real busy in a hurry. It starts on Friday, and I won't really catch my breath until almost the beginning of October.
Right. Yes. Well, hey, we'll be listening, and thanks again, and go Tides, and have a great season.
All right, Rags. Thank you.
All right. So that was Pete Michaud here with us today.